The fluorescent lights of Memorial Children's Hospital flickered slightly as Marcus Thompson walked down the corridor, his work boots squeaking against the polished floor. It was a Tuesday evening in early March, and he was running late for his volunteer shift. Traffic had been brutal, and he'd almost called to cancel. Almost. But something kept pulling him back to this place, week after week. Even when exhaustion from 12-hour days at the construction site made every step feel heavy. Marcus had been volunteering here for nearly 7 months now, ever since his therapist suggested he needed to find purpose again. Channel that energy somewhere positive. Dr. Williams had said during one of their sessions, "You can't bring Emma back, but you can honor her memory." Emma, his little girl, gone 2 years now at age 7, taken by a drunk driver who ran a red light while she was walking home from school. The divorce from his wife Sarah had followed 6 months later. Neither of them could look at each other without seeing what they'd lost. The apartment he lived in now felt like a storage unit for a life he no longer lived. So he came here, read stories to sick kids, played video games with teenagers stuck in hospital beds, sat quietly with the ones too tired to talk. It wasn't healing exactly, but it was something. Tonight, as he signed in at the volunteer desk, Nurse Rachel gave him a knowing smile. "She's waiting for you." "Who?" Marcus asked, though he already knew. "Lily. She's been asking about you since this morning." Lily Chin, 9 years old, with long black hair usually tied in 2 braids, dark eyes that seemed too wise for her age, and a wheelchair she'd been confined to since she was 5. A car accident had damaged her spine, leaving her paralyzed from the waist down. Her parents had been killed in that same crash. Since then, Lily had been in the system. 3 foster homes that hadn't worked out. The families meant well, Marcus had learned, but caring for a child with significant physical needs was more than they'd bargained for. Specialized equipment, medical appointments 3 times a week, bathroom assistance. The reality proved overwhelming. So Lily lived here now, in the hospital's long-term pediatric care wing, a ward for children who had nowhere else to go. Marcus found her in the common room, parked by the large window that overlooked the parking lot. She was watching families leave, parents holding their children's hands, loading them into cars, driving away to homes she could only imagine. "Hey, kiddo," Marcus said softly, pulling up a chair beside her. Lily turned, and her face brightened immediately. "You came. I thought maybe you forgot." "I wouldn't forget," Marcus said, pulling out a book from his backpack. "Ready for the next chapter?" They'd been reading Treasure Island together for the past 3 weeks. Lily loved adventure stories, tales of people sailing to distant places, discovering new worlds. She'd never left the city, barely left this hospital, but she devoured every story about exploration and freedom. As Marcus read, he noticed Lily wasn't really listening. She kept glancing at the window, then back at him, her small hands fidgeting with the edge of her hospital gown. "What's wrong?" he asked, closing the book. "Nothing," she said quickly. Too quickly. Marcus waited. He'd learned that with Lily, patience always revealed more than pressing. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Next week is Parent Appreciation Day at the hospital. All the kids who have visitors are doing activities with their families." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "I see. The other kids have been talking about it all week. Sarah's mom is bringing cookies to decorate. Tommy's dad is teaching everyone card tricks. Even the kids in foster care have families coming." She paused, her voice cracking. "I don't have anyone." The words hung in the air between them. Marcus didn't know what to say. What could he say? Every platitude felt hollow. Every reassurance felt like a lie. "I'm sorry, Lily," he managed. She turned to look at him then, and the expression on her face nearly broke him. Raw longing mixed with desperate hope fighting against years of disappointment. "Marcus," she said slowly, as if testing each word. Could you maybe pretend to be my dad? Just for that one day?" Time seemed to stop. Marcus felt like the air had been sucked from his lungs. The question was so simple, so modest, so heartbreaking. She wasn't asking for a real parent. She wasn't asking forever. Just pretend. Just one day. Just so she wouldn't be the only one sitting alone. Lily, I know it's weird, she said quickly, looking down at her hands. I'm sorry. Forget I asked. It's a dumb idea. It's not dumb, Marcus said, his voice rough with emotion. He reached out and gently lifted her chin so she'd meet his eyes. It's not dumb at all. He thought about Emma, about how he'd failed to protect her, about the crushing guilt that had consumed him for 2 years, about how he'd been searching for a way to matter again, to be someone's father again, even if he didn't deserve it. I would be honored, he said. Lily's eyes went wide with disbelief. Really? You mean it? Really? What do you want to do? For a moment, she just stared at him like he'd offered her the world. Then her whole face transformed. Years of sadness momentarily swept away by pure joy. Could we go somewhere? Outside the hospital? I've always wanted to visit the botanical gardens. I saw pictures in a book once. There's this huge greenhouse with butterflies and everything. Marcus smiled, feeling something warm unfold in his chest for the first time in years. Then that's what we'll do. Lily launched herself forward in her wheelchair, wrapping her arms around his neck. She was crying, but these were different tears. Relief, happiness, the kind that came from having a wish you'd stopped believing in suddenly granted. Marcus held her, his own eyes burning. He barely knew this child's full story, and she didn't know his. But somehow, in this moment, none of that mattered. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what he'd agreed to. One day, just pretend. It should have been simple, but it didn't feel simple. He got up and made coffee at 2 a.m., sitting at his small kitchen table, scrolling through his phone. He looked up the botanical gardens, accessibility information, wheelchair ramps, accessible paths, a special program for children with mobility challenges. He called the gardens the next morning and spoke with the director, a woman named Margaret who listened to his story and immediately offered to arrange a private butterfly encounter for Lily. We love doing special experiences for kids who don't get many opportunities, Margaret said warmly. This will be wonderful. But as Marcus hung up, he realized something. He didn't want this to be just one day. He didn't want to pretend and then disappear, leaving Lily alone again. The thought terrified him. He called the hospital and asked to speak with Linda Martinez, Lily's social worker. Mr. Thompson, Linda said, professional but kind. What can I do for you? What would it take? Marcus asked, his heart pounding. For me to become Lily's foster parent. There was a long pause. Mr. Thompson, that's a significant commitment. Have you thought this through? I've thought about nothing else since last night. Lily has complex needs. Medical appointments, physical therapy, specialized equipment. The financial burden alone. I have good health insurance through my union, Marcus said. I'm a foreman now. Steady income. I can handle it. It's not just the money. It's the emotional investment. The time. The patience. Many people underestimate what it takes to care for a child with disabilities. I'm not many people, Marcus said quietly. I'm a father who lost his daughter. I know what it means to care for a child. I know what it means to love someone more than yourself. And I know what it means to fail. His voice broke slightly. Maybe this is my chance to not fail again. Another pause. Then Linda's voice softened. Let me send you the information packet. The process takes time, background checks, home studies, training classes. Could be 6 months or more. And we can't tell Lily anything until it's finalized. I won't give that child false hope. I understand. Mr. Thompson? Yes. I think you might be exactly what she needs. But I need to make sure she's what you need too. Not a replacement for what you lost, but a new chapter. I know the difference, Marcus said. And he did. Parent Appreciation Day arrived on a bright Saturday morning. Marcus picked Lily up at 9 a.m. sharp, carrying a bouquet of purple tulips, her favorite flower, he'd learned from one of the nurses. Lily was waiting in her wheelchair, wearing a yellow dress with white flowers that the nurses had helped her pick out. Her hair was braided perfectly, tied with matching yellow ribbons. "Hi," she said shyly when she saw him. "Hi yourself," Marcus said, handing her the flowers. "Ready for an adventure?" Her eyes filled with tears immediately. "You remembered my favorite flowers." "Of course I did." The drive to the botanical gardens took 30 minutes. Lily talked the entire way, her words tumbling out in excited bursts. She told him about the books she'd read about plants and ecosystems, about how rainforests produce 20% of the world's oxygen, about carnivorous plants that could trap insects. "Did you know some bamboo can grow 3 feet in a single day?" she said, her voice full of wonder. "I didn't know that," Marcus admitted. "Nature is amazing. I read everything I can about the outside world." She paused, then added quietly, "Even though I don't get to see much of it." "Well," Marcus said, "today you're going to see a lot of it." Margaret met them at the entrance with a warm smile. "You must be Lily. We have something very special planned for you." The gardens were spectacular. They started in the desert pavilion, where Lily marveled at cacti taller than Marcus and succulents in every shade of green. Then the tropical house, where the humidity wrapped around them like a warm blanket and exotic flowers bloomed in impossible colors. But the butterfly conservatory was where Lily truly came alive. Hundreds of butterflies fluttered through the air, monarchs, swallowtails, blue morphos, their wings catching the light like stained glass. They landed on flowers, on branches, and occasionally on visitors. "They're beautiful," Lily breathed, her face tilted up, watching them dance overhead. A volunteer named James approached them with a small dish of fruit. "Would you like to try feeding them?" Lily's eyes went huge. "Really? Really?" James showed her how to hold the dish steady. Within moments, a large orange and black butterfly landed on the edge, its delicate legs gripping the rim as it extended its proboscis to drink. "It's eating," Lily whispered, her voice filled with awe. "It trusts me." Another butterfly landed on her shoulder, then another on her hand. Soon she was covered in them, these delicate creatures treating her as part of their world. Marcus pulled out his phone and took pictures, capturing her expression of pure wonder. This was what joy looked like, he thought. This was what childhood should be. After the butterflies, they had lunch at the garden's cafe, grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup for Lily, a club sandwich for Marcus. They talked about her favorite subjects in the hospital school, science and reading, her dreams of maybe becoming a botanist someday, her wish to travel. "Where would you go if you could go anywhere?" Marcus asked. Lily thought about it. The Amazon rainforest. To see all those plants and animals in person. To know what it feels like to be surrounded by that much life. "You will someday," Marcus said. "I believe that." Her smile was soft, hopeful. "You really think so?" "I know so." After lunch, they explored the Japanese garden, with its koi ponds and carefully manicured bonsai trees. Lily was quiet here, peaceful, taking in the serenity. "Thank you," she said suddenly, "for today, for everything. This has been the best day of my life." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "Mine too, kiddo." "Really? Even though you're just pretending?" He looked at her. This brave girl who'd survived so much, who'd learned to ask for scraps of affection and be grateful for them. Over the next 6 months, Marcus threw himself into the foster parent application process with single-minded determination. He filled out endless paperwork, underwent background checks, attended training classes every Tuesday evening. He learned about trauma-informed care, about attachment theory, about the specific challenges of fostering children with disabilities. He learned statistics that made his heart ache. How many kids aged out of the system, how many ended up homeless or incarcerated. But he also learned about resilience, about how children could heal when given stability and love. He continued visiting Lily 3 times a week, never missing a session. They worked on puzzles together, played board games, read books about faraway places. He never told her what he was doing, couldn't tell her until everything was finalized. But sometimes he'd catch her watching him with those knowing eyes, like she was trying to understand why he kept showing up. "You come a lot," she observed one day in July. "Is that okay?" "Yeah, most volunteers get tired after a while. They stop coming as much." "I'm not going to get tired of you, Lily." She moved a chess piece he'd been teaching her to play. "How do you know?" "Because," Marcus said simply, "you matter to me." Meanwhile, he was transforming his life. He'd moved from his cramped apartment to a small 2-bedroom house with ramps and widened doorways. He'd spent weekends installing grab bars, building a roll-in shower, creating a space that could be a home. His construction crew had helped, showing up with tools and pizza, asking no questions but offering everything. "You're really doing this," his friend Carlos said one Saturday, helping install handrails. "Yeah. Emma would be proud, man." Marcus had to stop working for a moment, his eyes burning. "I hope so." The home study happened in September. 2 social workers came through every room, checking every detail. They spent 2 hours measuring, testing, evaluating. "This is excellent work, Mr. Thompson," one of them said finally. "This home is ready." The interviews were harder. They asked about Emma, about his grief, about whether he was trying to replace his daughter. "I'm not trying to replace Emma," Marcus said carefully. "Nothing could ever replace her. But I'm trying to honor what she taught me. That being someone's parent is the greatest privilege in the world. And Lily deserves that. She deserves someone who shows up, who stays, who chooses her." "And if it's harder than you expect?" Linda asked. "Then we'll figure it out. That's what families do." The approval came on a Tuesday in October, 6 months and 2 weeks after that day at the Botanical Gardens. Marcus was at a job site when his phone rang. He saw Linda's name and nearly dropped his hammer. "Mr. Thompson," Linda said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. "The board has approved your application. You can bring Lily home this Saturday." Marcus sat down on a stack of lumber, his hands shaking. "Really? Really? Congratulations, Marcus. You're about to become a foster parent." He left work early, drove home, and walked through the house. Everything was ready. The room he'd prepared for Lily, painted soft lavender because she'd mentioned it was calming. The bookshelf waiting to be filled. The desk by the window where she could study. Now he just had to tell her. Thursday afternoon, Marcus showed up at the hospital with purple tulips and a nervous energy he couldn't quite contain. Lily looked up from her book, surprised. "You're here early. Is everything okay?" "Everything's great," Marcus said, sitting down beside her. His heart was hammering. "I need to talk to you about something." Worry crossed her face immediately. "Did I do something wrong?" "No, sweetheart. Nothing like that." He took a breath. "Remember when you asked me to pretend to be your dad for Parent Appreciation Day?" She nodded slowly, her eyes wary like she expected him to say it had been a mistake. "That day changed my life," Marcus said. "It made me realize I didn't want it to be pretend. I didn't want it to be just one day." Lily stared at him, not breathing. "So I talked to Linda, and I've been working for the past 6 months to become a foster parent. Taking classes, fixing up a house, going through interviews. And yesterday, I got the final approval." Tears were already streaming down Lily's face. "Lily," Marcus said gently, "I want you to come live with me. For real. Not pretend. Not for one day. For as long as you'll have me. Would that be okay?" For a moment, she couldn't speak. Then she whispered, "You mean it? Really? Really?" She launched herself from her wheelchair into his arms with such force she nearly knocked him over. He caught her, holding her tight while she sobbed into his shoulder. 9 years of loneliness and abandonment pouring out all at once. "I wished for this," she cried. "That day with the butterflies. I wished that it could be real. That you could be my dad for real." Marcus felt his own tears falling. Looks like wishes do come true. They stayed like that for a long time. When Lily finally pulled back, her face was blotchy and tear-streaked, but radiant. "Can I call you Dad?" she asked tentatively. Marcus's heart felt like it might burst. "I'd love that." "Okay," she said, smiling through her tears. "Dad." Saturday morning came with sunshine streaming through the windows. Marcus arrived at the hospital with boxes and a truck, ready to bring his daughter home. Lily didn't have much. Clothes, books, a stuffed elephant named Peanut she'd had since she was little, the photos from their day at the gardens. But each item was precious, carrying the weight of her entire life. The nurses gathered to say goodbye, many of them crying. Lily had been with them for 4 years, and they'd watched her grow from a scared 5-year-old into this brave, brilliant girl. "You deserve this happiness," Nurse Rachel said, hugging her tight. "You deserve everything good." The drive to their new home took 20 minutes. Lily was quiet, watching the world pass by, seeing streets she'd never traveled, neighborhoods she'd never explored. "Nervous?" Marcus asked. "A little," Lily admitted. "What if I'm not good at this? At having a family?" Marcus reached over and squeezed her hand. "You're going to be great at it. And if we mess up sometimes, we'll figure it out together." When they pulled up to the house, Lily gasped. It was small but charming, with a neat lawn, flower beds by the door, and a ramp leading to the entrance. "This is home," Marcus said. He wheeled her up the ramp and through the front door. Inside, Lily's eyes went wide. The living room was cozy, with comfortable furniture and pictures on the walls. The kitchen had counters at 2 heights, one low enough for her to reach from her chair. And then Marcus showed her to her room. The lavender walls were exactly as he'd described. But what made Lily gasp was the wall mural he'd painted. A garden scene with butterflies of every color, flowers blooming, a blue sky overhead. "You painted this?" she whispered. "I wanted you to have a little bit of that perfect day in your room," Marcus said. "Until we can make more perfect days together." Lily wheeled closer to the mural, reaching out to touch the painted butterflies. "This is the most beautiful thing anyone's ever done for me." They spent the afternoon unpacking, putting her clothes in the dresser, arranging books on the shelf. Books Marcus had bought about botany, ecology, and faraway places. That evening, they sat in the living room, eating pizza and watching a nature documentary about the Amazon. Lily was on the couch, Marcus in the armchair, both of them still adjusting to the reality that this was real, this was permanent, this was home. "Dad," Lily said softly. Every time she called him that, it felt like a gift. "Yeah, this is going to be good, isn't it?" Marcus looked at his daughter, because that's what she was now, in every way that mattered. He thought about Emma, and he felt her presence not as a painful absence but as a gentle blessing, as if she was saying, "It's okay, Daddy. You can love again. You're allowed to be happy." "Yeah," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "This is going to be really, really good." Lily settled back into the couch, a peaceful smile on her face. For the first time in years, she wasn't in a hospital. For the first time in her life, she was in a place where someone had chosen her, where someone wanted her, where she belonged. What had started with a simple, heartbreaking question, "Would you pretend to be my dad for just one day?" had become the most real thing in both of their lives. They had found each other in their brokenness. They had found healing in their connection. And they had found home in each other's hearts. Neither of them would ever be alone again. The morning sun filtered through the kitchen windows as Marcus flipped pancakes on the griddle. It was Saturday, and the house smelled like maple syrup and coffee. "Dad," Lily called from her room. "Can you help me with this zipper?" "Be right there," Marcus called back, smiling. He walked down the hallway. This hallway he'd renovated with his own hands, this house he'd transformed into a home, and helped Lily with the zipper on her dress. At 12 years old, she was growing so fast, becoming more independent every day. "Thanks," she said, wheeling herself to the mirror to check her hair. "Do I look okay?" "You look perfect," Marcus said honestly. "Nervous about the presentation?" Today was the school science fair, and Lily had been working for months on her project about aquatic ecosystems. She'd built a model ecosystem in a large tank, complete with plants, fish, and a filtration system she'd designed herself. "A little nervous," she admitted, "but excited too." They loaded the car, Lily's wheelchair, the presentation boards, notes she'd prepared, and drove to the school. The gym was filled with parents and students, projects set up on tables, the buzz of excited conversation filling the air. Marcus helped Lily set up her display, then stepped back to watch her explain her project to the judges. She spoke with confidence, her knowledge and passion evident in every word. The shy, withdrawn girl who'd lived in a hospital was gone, replaced by this vibrant, brilliant young person who knew she was valued, who knew she belonged. Later, when they announced the winners, Lily's name was called for first place in her age division. She wheeled herself to the front to accept her ribbon, and Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. After the fair, they went to their favorite restaurant, the same Italian place they'd discovered on their first outing together all those years ago. "I'm proud of you, kiddo," Marcus said, raising his glass of water in a toast. Lily clinked her glass against his. "Thanks, Dad, for everything, for giving me a chance." "You gave me a chance too," Marcus said. "You saved me, Lily. You gave me a reason to be a father again." "Do you still miss Emma?" Lily asked softly. It was a question she asked sometimes, and Marcus never minded answering it. "Every day," he said honestly. "But loving you doesn't take away from loving her. My heart is big enough for both of you. Emma will always be my daughter, and so will you." Lily smiled, a genuine, peaceful smile. "I think she'd be happy that you found me, that we found each other." "I think so too." On the drive home, Lily asked, "Dad, do you think we could take a trip this summer? Maybe to the coast? I've always wanted to see the ocean." Marcus glanced at his daughter, remembering a 9-year-old girl in a hospital who dreamed of things she thought she'd never experience. "Actually," he said, "I've been thinking the same thing. How about 2 weeks in California? We can visit the Marine Biology Institute, see the tide pools, spend time on the beach." Lily's eyes went wide. "Really? You mean it? Really? You've been talking about marine biology for years. It's time you saw the real thing." When they got home, Lily headed to her room to start researching California's coastal ecosystems, already making lists of things she wanted to see. Marcus stood in the living room, looking at the photos on the wall, pictures from that first day at the botanical gardens, photos from birthdays and holidays and ordinary days that had become extraordinary simply because they were together. On the mantel was a photo of Emma, his first daughter, her smile bright and full of life. Next to it was a more recent photo of Lily, taken at her school awards ceremony. 2 daughters, one lost, one found, both loved completely. His phone buzzed with a text from Linda, Lily's social worker, who'd become a friend over the years, saw the science fair results online. "Tell Lily congratulations from me. You both are thriving. This is what the system is supposed to do, create families. You give me hope." Marcus smiled and typed back, "She gives me hope every day. Thank you for believing in us." He walked to Lily's room, where she was already deep in research, her computer screen filled with images of sea otters and kelp forests. "Hey, Lil." She looked up. "Yeah. I love you, kiddo." Her smile was radiant. "I love you too, Dad." Simple words, but words that had once seemed impossible for both of them. Words that had been earned through patience, through trust, through choosing each other every single day. What had begun with a child's desperate plea for someone to pretend for just one day had transformed into the most authentic, beautiful relationship either of them had ever known. Sometimes the most powerful bonds aren't formed through biology or circumstance. Sometimes they're forged through choice, through showing up, through loving someone not because you have to, but because you want to. Marcus had lost a daughter and found another. Lily had lost everything and gained a father. And together, they had built a family not through pretending, but through the most real, honest love imaginable. They had found their way home, to each other, to hope, to healing, and that was the greatest adventure of all.